Marcus, a train driver, faced an extraordinary crisis unlike any typical day in his career, which usually involved tasks far less complex than those faced by bus or car drivers. That day, he didn't have to swerve to avoid other trains or tackle intricate paths. Yet his alertness was vital. From his cab, he spotted what he first assumed to be a small animal, possibly a dog, on the tracks. Grabbing his binoculars for a better view, his heart dropped as he realized it was a young boy, his foot painfully ensnared in the rails. Without a moment's hesitation, Marcus applied the emergency brakes, haunted by the fear that he might be too late. Trains, notorious for their lengthy stopping distances, could be deadly in such scenarios. Thankfully, his prompt action brought the train to a stop mere inches from the child. When Marcus stepped out of the cab, he discovered the boy in a state of terror, his tears flowing as he shielded his eyes. Marcus mildly reprimanded the boy, inquiring if he had been playing on the tracks. Overcome with distress, the boy could only nod negatively while continuing to sob. Marcus then knelt down beside him and after several attempts, managed to free the boy's foot. The child, still in shock, clung to Marcus, shaking. In an effort to calm him, Marcus apologized for his stern words. Expressing his concern for the boy's safety, he offered to call the boy's parents to inform them that he was safe. As Marcus encouraged him to talk, the boy uttered just a few words about someone named Sam being taken, but revealed no further details, adding a layer of mystery to the event. As more train staff gathered, curious about the unfolding situation, there was a unanimous decision not to leave the boy in such a vulnerable state. Feeling a duty of care, Marcus decided to take the boy along for the remainder of his shift, ensuring his safety. When they reached Marcus's home, he informed his wife, Amelia, that they had a visitor. As they walked in, the welcoming scent of Amelia's cooking eased the strain of the day. Marcus comforted the boy, assuring him that he would enjoy the meal. Despite the warmth of the environment, the boy remained reserved, tightly hugging himself as if trying to hold himself together. Amelia, stepping out of the kitchen, paused as she took in the sight of the guest. Before her, Amelia displayed a look of both worry and fascination as she met the unexpected visitor and contemplated the reasons for his arrival. Upon entering the store, she was momentarily taken aback, but she quickly composed herself and greeted the familiar figure with a warm smile. "Hello there, Amelia," Marcus began, his voice fading as his gaze shifted to a young boy standing close by. "This is Leo," the boy introduced himself quietly, raising his head. "Oh my, I recognize him," Amelia suddenly realized, recalling a recent meeting with the boy. It was only 2 days earlier as she was leaving the grocery store, arms full of snacks and ingredients for dinner. As she proceeded down the street, her way was suddenly obstructed by a group of young men. "Excuse me, please," she had requested, trying to bypass them. "Where do you think you're going?" one of them jeered, scrutinizing her closely. "That's none of your concern," Amelia responded assertively, clutching her purse tighter. "What's in there?" another mocked, as they corralled her into an alley. Nervously looking around, Amelia weighed her chances of sprinting to the other end. The alley was ominously dark despite the broad daylight, casting doubt on her escape. At that moment, 2 smaller figures appeared from behind the market's trash bins. "Enough," "Hand over your purse," demanded a third man. Amelia's anger rose. But before tension could escalate further, the figures she noticed, two young boys, started running towards them, waving and shouting for help. The intimidating presence of the men wavered as the boys zipped past, catching the eye of a nearby police car. The men took off running, and the officers pursued them. Amelia walked over to the boys, noticing their tattered garments and the unfortunate situation they had been in. "Thank you so much. That was incredibly brave," she expressed, her smile broad with appreciation. "I don't have much, but please, take this food." The elder boy expressed his gratitude as he and his brother accepted the food and hurried away. Amelia felt a pang in her heart, saddened by the realization that these children were deprived of adequate care. Silently, she made a vow that if they were her own, she would ensure they never endured such neglect. "Do you remember me? You helped save me," Amelia said to Leo, bending down to meet his gaze. He nodded vigorously. "That's why they took Sam. They were upset with us," the boy revealed, detailing how they had been chased away from their last refuge in an attempt to escape a gang. Leo and his friends dashed across the train tracks. Tragically, Leo's foot became trapped, allowing the gang to catch up to them despite their desperate efforts to escape. Amelia was deeply affected by the bravery and determination displayed by the boys during this ordeal. It inspired her to deepen her commitment to aiding those in her community who were most at risk, particularly children. The abrupt removal of Sam from the scene left Leo to contend with an uncertain future alone, a development that deeply troubled Amelia. She clutched her chest and shared a meaningful look with her husband, Marcus. Recognizing the severity of the moment, Marcus immediately contacted the authorities. Initially, the police had been unable to act and the culprits had not physically stolen anything from Amelia 2 days earlier. However, the situation took a serious turn when they abducted Sam, necessitating a swift and decisive police response. Within hours, the authorities located Sam and arrested those responsible for his kidnapping. The involvement of Child Protective Service uncovered that Sam and Leo, among other children, were orphans who had managed to survive on the streets without any formal care or supervision. After their rescue, they were integrated into the foster care system. Yet, the concern for Sam and Leo's well-being continued to weigh heavily on Amelia and Marcus. Compelled by the hardships faced by the children, Amelia and Marcus chose to step in. Several months later, they opened their home to Sam and Leo. The couple made sure that each evening was a celebration of their expanded family, offering delicious dinners and a warm, supportive atmosphere for the boys. This generous gesture drastically changed their lives, providing Sam and Leo with the opportunity for a stable, nurturing home. After hearing this story, do you have any thoughts? Tell us in the comments section below. And then there is a similar warm story. Let's continue to see. As Brittany was busy making lunch in her kitchen, an entirely unexpected scene played out before her. Her 5-year-old son, Miles, burst into the kitchen wearing a mischievous smile. Brittany stopped in her tracks, shocked by the sight, and momentarily questioned the reality before her eyes. Recently, Miles had been notably gloomy, but today, he was radiating inexplicable happiness. Brittany was so overjoyed by this change that she couldn't help but gaze at him in awe. Engrossed in her thoughts, Brittany was snapped back to reality by Miles. She noticed that she had packed a bologna sandwich and some chocolates for his lunch. Thrilled. He flashed a grateful smile at her. Yet, he playfully hinted that he wanted more chocolate. When Brittany, regaining her composure, inquired why he needed more sweets, Miles's response left her completely astounded. He wanted to share them with Tanner, his new school friend. The real surprise came when Miles innocently stated that he and Tanner were twins. They both shared similar brown hair and eyes. And that's why he wanted to share his sweets with him. Brittany was shocked by this news. It was a lot to process. Firstly, she was trying to comprehend how Miles's mood had changed so drastically in such a short time. Secondly, the idea of a twin was completely perplexing. But Brittany realized she wouldn't have it any other way. She was just elated to see the vivacious, cheerful Miles she hadn't seen in a long time, the side of her son that seemed to have vanished after a disheartening event a few months earlier. Miles was a vibrant, joyful child who naturally uplifted everyone around him. He had a childhood buddy named David, with whom he enjoyed countless cheerful and playful times. The boys were inseparable, forging a bond their parents thought would endure. However, their companionship was suddenly interrupted when David's family moved upstate. This separation deeply saddened both boys, particularly Miles. He cried bitterly the day David left. And as time went on, he slowly became a mere shadow of his earlier self. Now, with the introduction of Tanner, it appeared that Miles had discovered a new friend who rekindled the spark that had been missing since David's move. Miles's assertion that Tanner was like a twin was as surprising as it was endearing. With excitement, she was eager yet cautious about finally putting a face to the name that had brought such a change in her son. This twin day seemed like the perfect occasion to see how Miles interacted with Tanner and gain insights into their friendship. Brittany had watched with a heavy heart as Miles became more and more isolated, interacting minimally and only during rare family gatherings. Time passed, turning days into weeks and weeks into months. Yet Miles seemed unable to recover from his social withdrawal. Brittany had exhausted herself thinking of ways to lift his spirits. From introducing him to new children in their area to encouraging him regularly to mingle. Unfortunately, these efforts had borne no fruit. The loss of a close friend had deeply affected Miles, leaving an emotional wound that Brittany feared wouldn't heal with time alone. Imagine Brittany's surprise when Miles entered the kitchen one day, animatedly talking about a new friend he called his twin. Overwhelmed with relief and thankfulness towards this person who had revived her son's social energy, Brittany contemplated how to arrange a meeting. She toyed with the idea of visiting his school or casually suggesting that Miles introduce them. Yet, she hesitated, cautious not to overstep as this might hinder Miles's fragile social recovery. With great self-control, she chose to wait, trusting that Miles would open up in his own time. For now, she found solace in the fact that he was sharing more about his life. Several days later, while the family watched TV, Miles brought up Tanner again. Brittany was immediately filled with questions about the authenticity and future of this newfound friendship. She pondered what would happen if Tanner moved away, possibly causing Miles to retreat even further. Little did Brittany know, an answer was soon to come. Winnie, Miles's older sister, mentioned an upcoming twin day at school, a part of the Red Ribbon Week festivities, where students would pair up and dress as twins. As the event approached, Brittany prepared for Winnie, who had already found a twin partner. Yet she couldn't shake her mixed feelings of curiosity and anticipation about meeting Tanner. As twin day approached, Brittany's nerves were a blend of nervousness and eagerness. This event presented an ideal opportunity to observe how Miles interacted with Tanner and to better understand the dynamics of their friendship. Marking a touching milestone in her role as a mother attuned to her son's developing social interactions, Brittany found herself navigating uncharted territory. As twin day approached, her son Miles seemed indifferent about participating, which led Brittany to think he was uninterested. Moreover, being new to the kindergarten community, she lacked connections with other parents to discuss the event details. So she focused her energies on her daughter Winnie, who was thrilled about the day. Unaware of the significant oversight she was making and the repercussions it could have, Brittany casually told her daughter to get her twin outfit ready for the next day right before bedtime. At that moment, as if triggered by her words, Miles excitedly declared that he had asked his friend Tanner to be his twin, and Tanner had agreed. Shocked, Brittany realized it was already 8 p.m. Much too late to start preparing. She didn't even know who Tanner was, much less his clothing size or how to arrange matching outfits at such short notice. Trying to stay calm, Brittany smiled reassuringly at Miles before putting him to bed. Once his bedroom door closed, she immediately sprang into action, texting his class teacher to get Tanner's parents' contact details. Unfortunately, she only received Tanner's mother's name without a contact number. Feeling defeated and anxious about letting Miles down, Brittany searched for solutions despite her exhaustion. Refusing to surrender, she made one last effort by looking for Tanner's mother on Facebook. A flicker of hope sparked when she found a profile, but it dimmed upon discovering it was deactivated. Back at square one, Brittany experienced a blend of desperation and resolve. She was determined to fix the situation, no matter what obstacles she faced. With renewed energy, she continued to scour online and through social media, aiming to contact Tanner's mother and ensure Miles wouldn't be disappointed on Twin Day. Brittany was resolute in her efforts, motivated by the thought of her son's potential dismay if she couldn't make things right. When reaching out to Tanner's mother proved unsuccessful, Brittany turned to Facebook, messaging everyone in town in hopes of finding someone who might have information about Tanner's family. After multiple attempts, she successfully obtained the contact information for Tanner's mother. Despite the time being 8:30 p.m., a rather unusual time for making calls, Brittany felt the urgency of the situation warranted an exception. She made the call and sighed in relief when Tanner's mother picked up. Speaking softly, Tanner's mom expressed regret for not reaching out earlier due to work commitments. She mentioned that Tanner often talked about Miles and was quite fond of him, though she hadn't brought it up since their conversation 2 days prior. Brittany then inquired whether Tanner's mom was okay with the boys wearing matching outfits the following day. Without any hesitation, Tanner's mom consented. The conversation proceeded smoothly, and she gave Brittany Tanner's clothing size along with other essential details. Armed with this information and the other mother's blessing, Brittany felt confident to proceed to the next step. That night, Brittany headed to Walmart, intent on finding coordinated outfits for the boys. She arrived at the store at 9 p.m., surprised to be shopping for her son and a boy she had yet to meet at such a late hour. As she browsed the children's apparel section, she was met with a new challenge. Selecting the ideal outfit was overwhelming. Kindergartners are famously indecisive, and their clothing preferences could be as unpredictable as the weather. Brittany deliberated on which styles the boys would like, t-shirts or button-ups. Aware of her own son's specific likes, she fretted about potentially disappointing either boy. Nevertheless, she pressed on, committed to making the day memorable for both Miles and Tanner. After considerable thought, She chose a pair of flannel shirts, hoping they would appeal to both boys. The following morning, Brittany woke her children and showed the flannel shirt to Miles. His immediate smile and enthusiastic approval filled her with delight. Miles proudly wore his new shirt to school, carrying Tanner's in his backpack. After the boys had left for school, Brittany experienced a mix of excitement and anxious anticipation. She hoped that the matching outfits would not only look good but also enhance the friendship between Miles and Tanner. The effort she invested in coordinating their attire demonstrated her profound dedication to her son's joy and social interactions at school. Brittany's son was so enchanted by the charming boy he met in his class that he was convinced they were identical twins. Captivated by her son's new friendship, Brittany felt reassured about her efforts. Brittany reached out to her son's teacher, asking for a photo of the boys in their matching outfits. Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with the photo she had been eagerly awaiting. With a mix of excitement and curiosity, Brittany pressed the download button, little knowing the deep impact this simple act would soon have on her life. As the image opened, Brittany gasped. There was her son Miles, grinning mischievously at the camera, his happiness evident. Next to him stood Tanner, the boy Miles saw as his twin, displaying a shy smile. Both boys were clad in the flannel shirts Brittany had bought for them. Yet, shockingly, the shirts were the only thing identical about them. Miles had light skin and semi-blonde hair, while Tanner was dark-skinned with tight, black curls. Their eye colors and hair textures differed significantly. Despite these physical differences, Miles viewed Tanner as his twin, illustrating his pure and innocent view of the world. Tears formed in Brittany's eyes as she took in the scene, moved by her son's ability to see beyond appearances and forge a deep bond with Tanner. In that instant, Brittany felt a swell of pride for nurturing a son who could remind everyone of the inherent goodness and purity still present in a sometimes cruel world. Driven to share this moving moment, Brittany posted the poignant photo and her thoughts on Facebook. She hoped to show the world this beautiful example of unadulterated kindness and friendship. Her post struck a chord online, quickly becoming viral. It gathered over 500,000 likes and was shared around 300,000 times, spreading a message of love and unity across the globe. Brittany was touched by the massive positive reaction. She was pleased that her son's story could evoke such hope and positivity, reaffirming her faith in the power of human connections and the value of recognizing our differences. This event, sparked by the simple yet profound gestures of a young boy named Miles, served as a significant lesson on racism and societal perceptions. His innocent actions profoundly altered many people's views, including his mother's, challenging the idea that racist beliefs are ingrained or taught systematically. Miles, with his sincere and straightforward actions, managed to convince an entire audience of the community has begun to look beyond lineage and skin tone, focusing instead on the essence of an individual's character. This shift in perspective became evident when Brittany, Miles' mother, started viewing Miles' best friend as if he were his brother. Despite their noticeable differences, this shift in attitude occurred just 2 days before it was realized that Tanner's family resided nearby. As the story gained traction online, both families took the chance to connect and enjoy meaningful time together. This incident has profoundly impacted Miles, making him more outgoing than he was a few months ago. His mother views this change as both comforting and uplifting, as the family's outlook continues to improve. Brittany is deeply thankful for the positive transformations she has observed. Miles' knack for breaking down racial divides is truly motivational. Has Miles' story touched you? Do you have a similar story to share? We encourage you to post your thoughts in the comments section below. Next, let's continue to see another story. During a sticky Alabama night, Officer John Harris patrolled the empty streets of a quaint town. As his patrol car illuminated the darkness, he abruptly spotted several figures grouped by the roadside. These were 6 young African American girls, with the eldest shielding the youngest with a resolve that made John shiver. It was evident to him that they were in distress. "Let's escape this heat," John suggested as he exited his vehicle. The girls glanced at him, their eyes filled with exhaustion and suspicion, a reaction John anticipated, considering he was a middle-aged white officer in a southern town. Despite their wariness, he saw the youngest girl gripping the eldest, and a sharp, unfamiliar sorrow pierced his heart. Huddled in the back of the police car, the girls tentatively revealed their names. They were shaking, though John couldn't discern if it was from the cold or fear. Their ages and home addresses remained undisclosed, and any talk of their parents was met with either silence or a sorrowful look. The protocol was straightforward: notify social services and arrange for their temporary care. Yet, as he was about to make the call, John paused. The haunted, hardened look in their eyes, bearing the weight of years, stayed his hand. Instead, he reached out to Cassie, a no-nonsense local social worker who knew the system's shortcomings. Her voice came through the radio. "Meet you at the station in 15 minutes. The police station, typically a place of stark fluorescent lighting and ongoing scanner chatter, seemed a bit warmer when Cassie arrived. She approached the girls with a skilled yet tender manner, softly speaking to ease their tension, though a deep-seated distrust remained. As time passed, no frantic parents appeared, and no missing person reports matched these 6 children. It was as though they had materialized from nowhere. They accepted the snacks Cassie offered but stayed tightly clustered together. John realized he couldn't place them in a system that might fail to safeguard them. Protocol be damned, he whispered to himself. My home is small, but it's a beginning. Embracing this choice began an unforeseen chapter in his life. John adopted the 6 girls, unwilling to subject them to the unpredictabilities of the foster care system. He found himself awake, pondering the future of these 6 girls who were about to face the unpredictable and often harsh foster care system again. It had been a difficult journey, marked by numerous obstacles and learning experiences for both John and the girls. 2 decades later, the significance of that pivotal night came to be deeply felt. Now adults, the girls arranged a community event to enhance awareness and raise funds for local foster children. This event not only drew attention to the systemic issues but also honored the resilience and strength of those who endure it. As John watched the women he had nurtured, he saw them not just as his daughters but as influential catalysts for community change. Their commitment to giving back turned their personal tale of survival and resilience into a symbol of hope for many others. In an awkward moment, John had blurted out, "At least there is a couch," to which Cassie visibly relaxed. Their method wasn't strictly conventional, but sometimes compassion needs to outweigh strict adherence to rules. The next morning, John hesitantly knocked on the door of his apartment. Inside, the girls exchanged anxious glances. He placed the bags he had picked up from Walmart on the kitchen table, which were packed with juice boxes, budget-friendly coloring books, mismatched socks, and more. Even though John was unsure what the coming days would bring, a warmth filled his heart as he observed the girls excitedly browsing through the coloring books. Welcoming this turmoil into his life might have been a reckless decision, But seeing the youngest girl laugh for the first time shifted something profound within him. He didn't know how he would cope. But he was resolute in his commitment not to disappoint these girls. In the subsequent weeks, the apartment buzzed with nervous excitement. Their fragile stability was gauged by court dates and interactions with stern social workers. The inquiries were always the same: where were their parents? How long had they been on their own? The responses were invariably met with vacant gazes and quiet references to distant relatives who offered occasional help. Their father had disappeared shortly after the birth of the youngest. And their mother had reached her breaking point, leaving them on a church porch, abandoned. This was the reality these 6 girls were confronting. Potentially being displaced once more by the same system that had previously let them down. At night, John lay awake, wrestling with the thoughts of what lay ahead for them. He lay restless on the dilapidated sofa, unable to find sleep. Instead, his mind was haunted by the echoing declarations of caseworkers stating, "It's the best outcome given the circumstances." The imminent separation threatened to disperse the 6 girls across the foster care system, likely reducing their close ties to mere case file numbers. "Cassie once told me, 'You're their best shot,'" he recalled, her tone laden with stark reality. "With your steady job and clear record, the system generally favors keeping siblings together, despite its flaws." Her words carried a significant weight. The idea seemed preposterous: a solitary, middle-aged white police officer in Alabama's heart, assuming responsibility for 6 black girls. Town gossip spread quicker than a wildfire in summer. At the police station, covert looks were exchanged, some were of sympathy, others of disapproval that ate away at John. Yet, the vision of the girls fortified him against any uncertainty. The thought of them facing the world unguarded was unbearable when he had the means to provide some semblance of protection. "I want to adopt all of them," he declared to Cassie the following day. Ever practical, she responded by bracing herself and saying, "Well, we have a mountain of paperwork to tackle then." That mountain was a steep cliff of legal terms, thorough background checks, and probing interviews that scrutinized his life. John was prepared to endure it all to keep the sisters united. His life's imperfections were laid bare: the hurt of a past broken engagement, the countless restless nights grappling with his demanding job. Yet, amid the bureaucratic labyrinth, there were moments of compassion. A judge, acquainted with personal hardships, and a weary caseworker, frustrated by a flawed system, showed him understanding. Cassie stood by him, a resolute ally who protected him from prying questions with her frosty stare and eased tensions during community meetings with her polished, honeyed demeanor. On the Judgment Day, the courtroom was enveloped in an almost ludicrous, surreal atmosphere. In his faded uniform, John stood before the judge as the girls clustered around him, their eyes filled with hope. When the judge announced custody granted, adoption rights approved, the words resonated profoundly, sealing a definitive, lasting resolution. Against all odds and logical expectations, John had become a father. Leaving the courthouse was like navigating a challenging obstacle course. The glare of camera flashes momentarily blinded him, and a reporter pushed a microphone towards him, peppering him with questions. Instantly at his side, Cassie dispersed the gathering media, who resembled scavenging vultures. The girls moved closer, intertwining their fingers with his, brought together purely by chance and a daring leap of faith. This mismatched group felt a shared connection. Holding their hands, he felt a wave of deep responsibility and a powerful burst of affection. He braced himself to tackle any forthcoming obstacles. John's apartment quickly turned into a hub of unbridled mayhem. A collection of 6 sneakers littered the entrance, posing a tripping hazard in the faint early morning light. In the cramped kitchen, mismatched dishes clinked loudly during breakfast scrambles as he sipped his tepid coffee before heading to work. At night, the sofa became his sanctuary. The 2 oldest girls occupied one room, while the younger trio shared another. Each floorboard groan and soft giggle coaxed a tired smile from John. Despite the tight quarters, the girls adjusted remarkably well. They passed down clothing, celebrated birthdays with inexpensive decorations and imaginative cake improvisations. The small kitchen table became the epicenter for schoolwork, crafts, and occasionally, the sight of tears during fierce debates and proud moments with stellar report cards. Each minor injury and each hair braid styled felt like a significant victory for John. The hesitant smiles of earlier times slowly transformed into confident laughter, which filled the gaps left by worried murmurs. As time passed, John understood that love transcended physical appearances and was about being a reliable, supportive presence, crafting a sanctuary in a sometimes cruel and unforgiving world. Financial burdens were relentless. His paycheck vanished as soon as it was received, swallowed by rent and the continuous need to restock ever-dwindling food supplies. Amid their growing family, the demand for clothing, footwear, and basic essentials never ceased. Yet, the girls never voiced any grievances. They seemed to grasp that finances were a relentless challenge for their father, John, who battled daily. Although they wanted to contribute, John firmly declined, emphasizing their roles as students focusing on their studies. With this, John found himself taking on longer hours at the station, double, then triple shifts, particularly when coworkers were sick. Returning home exhausted, he'd collapse on the sofa, his body aching in places he hadn't noticed before. As time progressed, each of John's daughters evolved into distinct personalities, akin to colorful wildflowers emerging from urban pavement cracks. Alice, the oldest, transformed her youthful defiance into a quiet yet formidable presence. She chose literature as her tool of influence and dedicated her weekends to assisting younger kids with their academic challenges at a nearby community center. Maya, the family's artist, perceived the world through a unique lens. She repurposed old newspapers into intricate sculptures and saw allure in ordinary things. Their humble home's walls soon became canvases for her charcoal drawings and lively paint-splattered murals. During troubled times, she would disappear for hours, only to return with a sketchpad full of evocative images that depicted both suffering and perseverance. Emily, the middle daughter, brought tranquility to their home. Her gentle touch calmed heated arguments and healed emotional wounds. Animals naturally gravitated towards her, and she spent time at a local shelter, mending broken wings and helping fearful strays regain their trust in humans. Though she seldom spoke, her rare smiles and peaceful demeanor provided profound stability for her family. Janie, the second youngest, was a whirlwind of enthusiasm, bursting with imaginative concepts and contagious laughter. She had an unexpected talent for music. Her compositions, whether cheerful or somber, were always heartfelt and filled their living space with dynamic energy. Christy and Bella, the inseparable youngest siblings, each had their unique charm. Christy emerged as a natural leader, her sharp intellect and strong protective instincts ensuring that school projects were well managed and budgets meticulously maintained. Bella, the soul of the household, had a smile that melted even the stoniest hearts. She thrived on tales. Her imagination populated with fantastical beings and epic quests. Collectively, these 6 sisters created a tapestry more vibrant than John could have ever imagined. However, their safe haven was not shielded from the harsh realities outside. The venom of racism seeped into their lives through verbal assaults from passing vehicles, suspicious glances in the supermarket, and hushed, cruel remarks overheard at school. Each offensive remark hit John like a physical assault, knowing his daughters were targets of such hostility. Yet, he also witnessed their fortitude, the way they straightened their posture and held their heads high, confronting the world with steadfast resolve. John frequently observed the concealed pain and fear in their eyes, a silent testament to their shared struggles. John felt an overwhelming urge to shield them from the world's severe injustices. However, he knew that reacting solely with anger could weaken their defenses. Instead, they advanced with determination and clear communication, striving to overlook the toxic behaviors they faced. When the stillness of the night enveloped their home, John would reflect on the day's events. At times, anger nearly consumed him, the impulse to fight back transforming into a formidable foe he struggled to control. Yet, he consistently emphasized the power of love as their most potent tool. He shared tales of quiet courage, citing Rosa Parks on a bus and Ruby Bridges entering a hostile school environment. Their library visits turned into quests to discover authors whose stories echoed their own struggles, introducing them to the works of Maya Angelou and James Baldwin, literature infused with agony, strength, and a steadfast refusal to be oppressed. They met every injury with defiance and every insult with tenacious resolve. John remained their unwavering support, his love unfaltering. Under his guidance, they learned that true strength did not come from avoiding pain but from possessing the enduring spirit to overcome difficulties together. As adolescence arrived, their apartment felt as if it were in the eye of a storm. Seemingly overnight, the girls transformed. The days of scraped knees and bedtime giggles gave way to hormonal shifts, slammed doors, and a newfound need for privacy. John felt out of his element as he managed arguments over skirt lengths, makeup blunders, and their initial clumsy romantic interests. The intimate nightly conversations once filled with laughter now turned into quiet, tearful exchanges behind closed doors, leaving John both concerned and proud. No manual existed for raising teenage girls, particularly not when racial complexities touched every facet of their lives. John awkwardly led discussions on hair relaxers and skin bleaching creams, his voice occasionally breaking with emotion. A school project on segregation vividly brought them back to the cruel realities beyond their nurturing sanctuary. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was immense beauty in witnessing the girls flourish in their own distinctive ways. As college approached, John found his salary stretched thin, but he firmly declined the girls' timid offers to contribute financially. Then there was Alice. At 16, she confidently announced she had landed a job. It wasn't up for debate. She had been actively sending out resumes for weeks and had recently begun tutoring on weekends. Additionally, she took on a cashier role at the local grocery store. Inspired by her initiative, Maya started selling her artwork at the local farmers market and gradually built a steady income. Emily leveraged her natural affinity for animals into a popular dog walking business that even the most nervous pets found soothing, while Jan expanded her music teaching practice. Their every action was a reflection of the resilience and autonomy that John had fostered in them, demonstrating that they could overcome and flourish in spite of life's persistent challenges. Although teaching young children was only part of his life, It played a crucial role in uniting them against the persistent financial worries that haunted him. Graduation day brought the typical Alabama humidity. With the air so heavy that it weighed down the rows of parents seated on squeaky folding chairs at the high school stadium. John, clad in his rarely worn uniform, felt awkward and out of place amidst the sea of pastel summer dresses and the proud, smiling faces of fellow parents. His heart pounded beneath the starched fabric of his clothes. The importance of this day surpassing any promotion he had ever received. The ceremony was a whirlwind of diplomas, proud snapshots, and modestly priced champagne. It wasn't the extravagant celebration some had, but it was distinctly theirs. Back at the apartment, the girls surprised him with a homemade cake. Despite its uneven shape and the icing's misspelled words, "We love you," it was the most beautiful cake he had ever seen. They had combined their modest funds to purchase it, a symbol of their love and gratitude. Along with the cake, he was presented with an envelope containing 6 cards, each with heartfelt, handwritten messages that blurred as he read them, overwhelmed by emotion. Alice, always articulate, wrote about how he had taught her that family is defined not by blood but by unconditional love. Maya, in her succinct style, expressed her gratitude for his role in helping her acknowledge her beauty, a beauty she had previously struggled to recognize in herself. From Emily came simple words, "You gave me my voice." Janie's scribbled notes overflowed with joyful promises to make him proud through her music. Cassie and Bella, the youngest children, presented their artwork, a vibrant, chaotic blend of crayons and glitter. The message, however, was crystal clear: he was their hero. When the last crumbs of cake had been swept away and all farewells exchanged, John found himself alone on the worn sofa. Soon, his daughters would be off to nearby colleges they had chosen for their affordability. Avoiding a mountain of debt, they were set to blossom into independent women, forge their own paths, and eventually leave the nest. This was the natural progression of things. The apartment would soon feel more hollow. Yet echoes of their laughter would fill the space. Their lives had been shaped not by grand acts, but by the constant, quiet pulse of everyday affection. As years rolled by, a cascade of graduations, job interviews, and first apartments marked their journey, each as modest as their childhood home. The girls flourished, but the strain on John was palpable. Working night shifts never became easier, and his back pain was a constant companion. It wasn't an overnight shift, but a gradual decline. He started forgetting important dates and, for the first time, found solace in afternoon naps. Once a pillar of strength, John now found himself on the receiving end of his daughter's loving nagging and playful threats to confiscate his coffee mug. Yet, deep down, he no longer worried about their futures. He was confident in the resilience he had instilled in them, a resilience that would guide them through life. The roles had subtly changed, and the girls had naturally taken on the role of caretakers. This new phase initially dented his ego, but as always, love triumphed over his resistance. He embraced their caring gestures, accepting cups of tea and gentle nudges to eat well. Where he had once been their foundation, he now leaned on their unwavering support as his own strength wavered. Over time, another subtle transformation occurred. Their weekly dinners, once dominated by his inquiries into their lives, shifted to a mutual sharing of their own experiences. Conversations spanned from workplace dynamics to the joys and trials of parenthood. Alice was making a name for herself at the public defender's office. Emily was excelling at a veterinary clinic. And Maya's artwork was gaining local recognition. Janie was teaching music in an inner-city school, while Cassie and Bella were weaving their dreams into the fabric of this unconventional family. John observed quiet indications of their advancement, fewer grievances about student loans and unexpected bills, and more about their plans and achievements. Their shoes were nicer than what their budgets should have allowed. A subtle joy bubbled under the surface, signaling that years of hardship were finally paying off. On a particular Sunday afternoon, they ushered him into their well-worn family truck. Despite his objections, they merely responded with secretive grins and hints at a major surprise awaiting him. They pulled up to a quaint house, set a little way off the street, featuring a porch swing and a lawn of tall grass. "Welcome home, Dad," Alice declared as she handed him a set of keys and the property deed with his name emblazoned across it. With tears blurring his vision, he attempted to decline the gift, but their jubilant voices quickly overpowered him. "No arguing. You've earned this." They guided him into the house which, although bare, seemed like a fresh canvas ready to be turned into a loving home. Through the back door, a garden drenched in sunlight was revealed, where 6 rose bushes had been thoughtfully planted and named for each of his daughters: Alice, Maya, Emily, Janie, Cassie, and Bella. John collapsed to his knees, his laughter mixed with tears. Strong arms encircled his shoulders, and in that moment, with the fragrance of roses all around and enveloped by his daughter's limitless affection, every sacrifice, every concern, and every sleepless night melted away into something indescribably wonderful. What a glorious end to a tale of deep impact. If you have a story about someone who has profoundly affected the lives of children, please do share it in the comments. We would be thrilled to read about it. For now, we bid you farewell. See you in the next post.